Hi everyone, and Happy New Year. This review's a little bit delayed. I was hoping to get it out before New Year, but such is life. As you can see, we've got a couple of bots to review today. Some big boys who don't quite fit in the frame. So we'll have a look at the boxes individually in a moment. But obviously, this is the re-release of MMC's Inventa Magna, their version of Sky Lynx. Now this is the toon re-release. Has slightly more toon accurate colours from what I can see. I've been after this thing for a while actually, but I kind of didn't want to pay aftermarket prices, and then I noticed this was coming out, but it took forever to surface, and then it came just before Christmas along with everything else, so I ended up paying best part of 300 quid for this, I think, for both parts. So it was an expensive December for sure. But anyway, enough of me rambling on. Let's have a look at the box artwork. I'm just going to move stuff around so we can see it. Let's move the camera down a little bit, and here we go. So this is the Inventa part. So this is the sky of the Sky Lynx, and bigger box because it's the larger of the two pieces. I believe this originally came second. You could only buy this together now. It wasn't when it first came out. I think Magna was released first, and then Inventa was second. But now you get them both together in one package. On the back, we have some combined mode artwork, some wraparound artwork, which looks very nice indeed. With the original colours, though, I will note, this doesn't have the toon colours. You've got the darker blues there. Not really anything on the ends of the box, so I won't try and fit those into frame. Let's get this out of the way, and we'll have a look. If I can grab it, we'll have a look at Magna. And obviously this is the Lynx part of Sky Lynx, and very similar box. Again, uses the old colouring. I believe there was even a note, wasn't there, on the other box, and there is on this. The colour varies between the illustrated figure and the actual product. So they've obviously just, I'm guessing, I say they obviously, I'm guessing they've just reused the box art from the first release and put that on there, rather than having to change the colours. There isn't, again, much else to say about this. MMC's boxes aren't the most exciting ever. It does obviously mention there about having the cell batteries for LED functions. I don't have those, so I'm not going to be demonstrating them, I'm afraid. But it does have some LED functionality. Okay, let's move this out of the way, and let's have a look at the accessories. I say accessories, there aren't really that many bits to show off here. You get 2 user manuals. You get a product card for both. So you've got your Inventa product card there. You've got your Magna product card there. They both have the same bio on the back. I haven't actually. I'll tell you what. Let's quickly open this up. I haven't really opened much of it up myself before now, because I've really not touched these since I bought them. I've had so much else to look at. I haven't had the chance. But it's not even really a bio. It's just a product card that has some info about his strength, intelligence. It's basically tech specs, isn't it? But there's not really a bio on there. And the manuals themselves, they are what they are. I'll try and take this one out without ripping the bag. Just get your illustrations on there. Get your transformation instructions. You get a little pin with this one to do the battery placement. There's not really a huge amount in there, is there, to be honest? Just some instructions on how to do it. And again, with this one, I'm not going to get the manual out because it's very similar. One thing you do get over and above Magna with this one is, in addition with the pin for the battery compartment, you get some of these little plastic things, which I am assuming, and I haven't checked, but I'm assuming they are little fillers for various screws, screw holes and things like that, screw covers essentially. So yeah, you don't really get much else with it. Well, there's one little add-on you get. Obviously there are no weapons or anything because the character itself didn't have any weapons. But one thing you get is this alternate head, which did come with the first release as well. The difference here is that because this is the Toon release, it isn't chromed like it was on the original. So yeah, that is the difference. This is, I believe, the toy head. And it comes, you know, complete with the, I think this was a flamethrower or something, or it shoots lasers in the cartoon, but I think it was meant to be a flamethrower or something. This is where the LED functionality is activated as well. You see the little button there, you click that and that turns the LED on and off, and the battery compartment is on the top of the head there. You just use that little thing to prise it open. Obviously I haven't got that thing to hand, but yeah, just like a little, pop that out, put the battery in. It's just on a ball joint, so you would just pop the other head off, pop this one back on. And I was a bit confused when I first opened it. I was like, well, where's the chrome head? I didn't realise that the other head was attached to the Magna part, so I thought I was missing something. But no, there is no chromed head with this release. You just get the more Toon accurate look, albeit with the toy moulding. So yeah, that's everything you get in the box, really. No great stakes in the extras department. What should we do? Let's bring in the first of the figures, shall we? I don't know. Oh, maybe I'll bring them both in. They're pretty big, so I don't know if they'll both fit. I might need to move the camera down a little bit again as well. This is obviously the Inventa part. We'll do that one first. And yeah, it is a big boy. Obviously space shuttle mode. This is how it comes. You need to clip a few bits and pieces together, but by and large it's done out of the box. And it looks pretty nice. You know, you can see on camera the colours are lighter than they were on the first release, and this is the more Toon accurate sky blue almost. It has some landing gear, which I've extended for purposes of showing them off, just sitting them on this table. One thing I will say, actually, out of the box, is that I had to try and push a lot of, or push some of the panels together, and they don't really clip in as securely as I would like. I found the wings were very difficult. You'll see there's still a gap between the wings and the body, the fuselage, and yeah, like trying to do it, they really don't clip in all that well. Even when you push them in, they have a tendency to pop back out. I read a few forum comments. There aren't many comments about this guy on TFW. It doesn't seem to be something that many people have spoken about. But the comments I did see, a couple of them mentioned people had both versions, that this one doesn't peg together quite as well as the previous one. You'll see there that the tail section, that doesn't quite peg in either. It's like it's a little bit too far back, and then when you push it forward, it goes in, so it's not going to flop, but it's not quite flush, and you know, there's not enough give for it to clip in properly. So similar with these doors and this piece here, there's just a little bit of a gap all round. Nothing terrible, but a little bit. And also on mine, this piece on the wing here, you can see that piece there, on this side it just falls straight out. If I were to do that normally, it would fall out. So what I've actually done is put a little bit of blue tack in there, of all things, and it took me a while to get enough in there to actually do it, but I don't know why that actually comes off. It doesn't seem to serve any purpose, but I have put some blue tack on it just to hold that piece in so it doesn't get lost. But yeah, so like the whole kind of, you know, finesse is lacking maybe with this piece, you know, that the attention to detail in terms of things clipping together how they should, it's not quite what it could be. But I will say that the actual mode itself looks really good. Obviously, scale-wise, this is nowhere near big enough really to be an actual space shuttle, but it does look really nice. You know, you've got some nice boosters on the back there. They're painted in a nice metallic sort of gunmetal grey. You have, you know, this nice gold trim, and on the underside, you know, as I said, you've got the landing gear that extends, and you can retract that into here and close the flaps up for a nice clean finish there. And the same with the one at the front, that closes up, so then you don't have anything showing if you wanted to display it like on, you know, maybe you were going to suspend it or something like that. That then, I'll get him out of the way. That is Inventa. I know a lot of people call this figure Magna Inventa, but technically if it's Sky Lynx it would be Inventa Magna. I think it was Magna Inventa because that was the order it was released in, but I'm calling it Inventa Magna for the purposes of this review. Speaking of which, here is Magna. Oh, and as you can hear, this is a chunky old boy. I mean, I think they call this a cargo transport. That's the official alt mode. It's just a big old block, isn't it, really? But I do like the colours. I think these colours look better than the original colours, which were that dark blue. But I really like this sky blue and this red. They pop really well. It's not really particularly exciting or great looking alt mode, is it? It is just a block. But it's, you know, it's cartoon accurate to a degree. It's like all the reformatted line. They're not 100% cartoon accurate, and even the C version, the cartoon version, isn't 100% toon accurate, but it is definitely more accurate than the original release. So that's all I'm going to show off for that. There's nothing really to show there. You know, I'll give you a look at the underside, just more blue, red, and grey plastic really. Although there is, as I said, there's a lot of die cast in this. This piece is a lot sturdier and a lot chunkier than the Inventa part. The Inventa part feels quite lightweight and plasticky, whereas this, because it's got these die cast pieces here and here, there's a lot of weight in it. So it's far more chunky and sort of sturdier. There is one little thing I'm going to show off before we go into the individual figures and transform them into their sort of beast modes. Obviously, Sky Lynx is a combiner of sorts. Not really a combiner, he's more of a gestalt entity, isn't he? So he has these two components that function as one, but also can function independently. So something's fallen off. I need to figure out where that's come from. Me banging it around has obviously loosened. Ah, there it is. So yeah, this is what I was saying. So like it's all a little bit like, I don't know, just not quite as sort of finessed as it could be with things falling off and stuff. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so he is a sort of a combiner of sorts, but he's not, you know, not made up of multiple personalities. He is one bot, you know, and splits into multiple components. So let's just show off the first combined mode. So on the underside of the shuttle, you have this tab here and this tab here, and it's a little bit tricky to do it, but there's a notch on the top here and one there as well, and you have to kind of align them up, and then you should be able to slide this piece on and then clip it down, and then you'll see, again, it's pretty big. I'm going to move it back as best I can on my pretty limited setup. Move the camera up slightly, and there you go. That's what it looks like in the first combined mode. So I guess the shuttle now is transporting the cargo transport, and that connection is pretty secure. Like, you're not going to lose that bottom part, even if you shake it. It's not going anywhere, so that's good. And with them combined, they are very weighty. Actually, there's a lot of heft to them, most of which comes from this, as I said. But it is, you know, it's what it is. It's not the most exciting alt mode, but it is true to the character. So, you know, I can't really argue with that. Right, I think what I'm going to do then is I'm going to do them individually now. I'll get them transformed up. I may actually start with Magna just because it's, I think, potentially the easier of the two. Inventa is, although not as bulky, is slightly more involved in terms of the transformation. So yeah, if you just give me a moment, I'm going to get them separated and then I'll come back and we'll have a look at Magna on its own. Okay, and here we are back with a look at Magna. And yeah, still a big chunky boy. Again, I have slightly mixed feelings about the QC. Some of it's really good and some of it's not quite as good. So I'll cover that in a bit though. It'll sort of naturally reveal itself as we go through, I think. But yeah, looking at it, this is obviously the Lynx component of Sky Lynx, and it looks pretty cool. I think, you know, not 100% toon accurate, but the color change definitely helps it look a little bit more accurate, or I guess considerably more accurate, if I'm honest. But obviously it still has the stylings that you'd expect from the reformatted line, so it has a lot more surface detail than the animation model would have, which obviously the animation model very flat, but it is very true in terms of the silhouette to the overall animation model. So you don't have to, you know, stretch the imagination too much in order to view this guy as a cartoon accurate Sky Lynx. Hopefully that gives you a decent look all round. I know he's a big guy, so he doesn't fit in the camera viewfinder all that well, but I think probably the next thing to do is go through a bit of an articulation checklist. Now, a little bit difficult on this because it doesn't really have a top or a bottom, but I'll do my best. Starting with the head, this is the toon head, I believe. I think I've got that right. It has some decent articulation on the jaw, so you can open the jaw a long way. You've got a nice painted mouth inside. You have this gun, as I said, like you had with the toy head, and that's articulated as well, so you can move it up and down, so that looks pretty cool. Quite nicely painted, this one, actually better painted than the toon head. Toon head had some paint missing off the teeth, so this is, sorry, the toy head. This toon head is slightly better painted, although there is some sort of flash inside, some mold flash. But yeah, and I like the colour. I prefer this colour anyway to a chromed head, so I'm glad that, you know, they both came with this sort of toon accurate colour. The head can move up this far and it can move down this far. It can move side to side on this joint here, but you also get a little bit more out of it because it's on a ball joint, so you can get some decent poses out of it where it can look down. It's got quite a lot of range of motion on it. Even when you get down to that sort of you know, final bit on that, you still have a bit more because of the ball joint. So it's really got a really great range of motion on the head there, so you can be pretty expressive with it, have him looking off in different directions, you know, with his more open, that kind of thing, shooting at targets, whatever you want to do. So that's pretty good. I'm quite impressed with the articulation on that. Now onto the legs, the sort of front legs, they are what you'd probably expect, plus a bit more. So you have, obviously they can't go all the way out, which you would not expect them to be honest. They can go out about that far, which is, you know, that's fine. So if you want a wider stance, you've got it. They can, there goes that piece again. And again, the QC, I'll speak to that. That's just one of the things. Obviously they have another strong ratchet that you can get the leg up to there. I mean, it will actually go, I think it goes further than that, maybe. No, about that far. About 90 is what you can get it up to. And it isn't going anywhere. That's a very strong ratchet. You have a, well, I guess kind of a shoulder rotation there, which you can use to position the foot. There is another reason for that as well, which I'll go into in a moment. You also have here articulation at the knee joint. Now, this actually does go both ways, and it does that for a reason. And you have a good range of motion there as well. You can also extend this piece. Now, you could have it. You can do this for all of the legs, so you could have all of these legs extended to make him taller, but I don't like that. I think it looks better as it is compressed. On the ankle, this one was a bit loose on this side, a little bit looser than the others. But this is the configuration that it comes in stock out of the box, I believe. But you have, a decent range of ankle motion there. You do have some pivot as well. This piece here, this bit will slide to allow for some ankle pivot. So if you did want the leg out wider to get him in a really nice wide cat stance, you have the option to do that and have the feet flat while you do it, which is good, because then you can have him properly sort of rearing or kind of rearing up at the back, and then position down further at the front if you wanted to, kind of in a pouncing pose, which is good. Put it back. There we go. Things do tend to sort of need to clip in and out a bit, or to tend to come unclipped, I should say. You have, as I said, you've got the articulation on there. These side toes are individually articulated as well, but if you do that, obviously that makes it very loose on that joint. So you should really just have them clipped together, and that locks the foot in position then. You can also move these pieces out at the back here. There's a reason for that, and again I will go into that in a second. I'm not going to go into the back too much. I mean, obviously the configuration is slightly different, but it's much the same. Moving on up here, see if I can demonstrate this. You have a bit of a wiggle on this joint here, so you can get a bit of torso movement out of it as well, which is good. And you also have this joint here which extends, which bends like that, so you can get him into a nice arched pose like that if you wanted to. But you could also do it that way, so you could have his legs really far forward like that and use this extending torso piece here to have him really sort of stretched out like a cat. And he can lie, he can pretty much look like he's really getting ready to pounce there, which is really good. I think it looks good. There's a great range of motion. Obviously, this piece also has a ratchet on it, so you like a soft ratchet there, so you can move it. So if you were to do that, he would look like he was turning in one direction as well as pouncing. So there's or crouching, ready to pounce. So I'm really impressed with the range of motion on this figure. I think there's a huge amount of articulation on it. It's really, really good. The tails at the back here, they're also independently articulated. They are a bit loose, I have to say. Slightly disappointing how loose they are. So they do tend to sort of like turn around sideways rather than staying straight. But once you've got in positioned and you're not messing around with them, they'll be fine. So you could have one up, one down. I mean, they're a little bit, as you can see, like they've already turned around a bit. They're supposed to be like that. They do have a tendency to like turn and fall. But, if you're careful with them, you can get some reasonable poses out of them. And, they are what they are at the end of the day. It's a tail, or they are tails. So yeah, you don't need to do too much with them beyond positioning them when you've got the figure where you want him to be. That's kind of all of the articulation, really. What I wanted to show off, he comes out of the box, I believe, in what would traditionally be the toy config. Now, I could have this completely the wrong way around, so please forgive me if I have. I haven't got the stock image of the cartoon animation model to hand, but I believe this is more like the toy config. In the toon, he would have had these two front toes here to the fore. And you can do that simply by rotating the leg. and then changing this position here, and then you'll see now you've got the 2 front toes rather than the 3, and you can splay them like that, which is why they're on that sort of those hinges anyway. And you can do that all round. Just do that quickly, put that like that, and then you can also do it on the front. Move that round, change the orientation of that, push that foot in like that, and do the same on this side. Quickly move this piece back, move the foot, and I'll just get him into a slightly better pose, so it looks a bit more natural. There you go, and you can splay these toes again, as I said. And now he is in the alternate configuration, which I believe, as I said, this is the more toon accurate, but I could be wrong. I could have that completely back to front. So you can choose to put it in whichever orientation you want, obviously, completely up to you. And it's good that you have that option, I think, because you can basically display it however you prefer. I haven't really made up my mind how I want it. Thinking about it, I don't know whether this is actually toon accurate or whether this is more toy accurate. I'll have to look into it, but I will undoubtedly display it in whichever is more toon accurate. I'm seeing a lot of little pieces coming off, little plastic pieces and bits of paint and stuff, which is slightly worrying. To be honest, it's pretty well painted. There isn't that much paint transfer. I think I had a bit on here, which you may be able to see, maybe not, but there's a little bit on there which may come off or may not. But yeah, overall it's not too bad. But anyway, that is Magna. This piece popping off again is annoying. I'm going to have to probably find a way to glue that in as well. But yeah, that's just, you know, quite minor QC issues, to be honest. But it's more about like bits aren't quite as well put together as they could be. You know, a little bit of looseness here and there, and it just minor stuff, but it's worth mentioning, I feel. Okay, right. Get this fella out of the way, and I'm going to bring in Inventa. Here's one I also did earlier. Again, I might have to adjust the camera for this because this is a big old fella as well. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to adjust the camera for this one, aren't I? I might have to move this wing so that he fits a bit better. Let's move the camera up a bit so you can sort of get him in. How well is this going to work? Not all that well. Unfortunately, I just don't have the space to display these all that well either. Here we are. So this is Inventa. Move that up a little bit more. Now he is obviously the Sky part of the Sky Lynx. I forget the exact dinosaur it was. I did read about it the other day, but I think it begins with an A. Obviously, some kind of flying dinosaur, stroke early bird. But yeah, it looks decent enough. I think, unfortunately, this is the piece that I have the biggest trouble with, and I think it's the piece that a lot of people had the biggest trouble with back when it was initially released as well. It's the neck. Now, the neck apparently used to be a really floppy mess, and it isn't that. I would say the neck on this guy now is not too bad. It's not really going anywhere, but the head itself is pretty loose. That is a bit floppy. So that's the sort of QC annoyance that I have with this part of it. But other than that, it's not too bad. During the transformation, there is a scary bit with the tail where you have to bend plastic to move it out. I'm never a fan of having to warp plastic as part of transformations, but it wasn't too bad. And, you know, I managed to get through it without breaking it, which is the main thing. Trying to move and show you the actual figure is, again, as I say, I do apologise. I just don't have the room really to do it. I'll do my best to show it off. We'll go through the articulation. and we can kind of look at it as I do it. So on the head, you have obviously opening and closing jaws with the gun in the mouth as well. And you have these translucent pieces for the eyes, which are obviously the shuttle cockpit. Now the head is on a hinge here, which is quite loose. As I said, it's disappointingly so, I think. The head, it does flop. Like, it's the one bit that is pretty loose, and I'm not... Yeah, it's quite annoying that bit is loose. But it does have a decent range of motion. You can move side to side on it. You can move up and down. But it's just a bit too floppy. I could see that being quite annoying if you were trying to pose it. But if you get it into a position where you're not going to move it for a while, it shouldn't be too bad. It's not likely to move in that circumstance. The neck itself, the head immediately falls down as I let go of it, obviously, just to illustrate the point. The neck itself is actually pretty good this time around. I'm not seeing any major problems with that. You have individually articulated sections there. You get a decent range of motion out of it. You can tilt it side to side. So yeah, you can get quite a lot of, quizzical bird there. It's just disappointing that this piece, the actual head piece, the bit that you would think would need to be the most solid out of all the pieces, is the one that does tend to fall apart. But actually, when you've got the mouth open, it does make it a bit better. It does make it a bit easier, or it does make it a bit more solid, I should say. It doesn't fall as much because it's pushing against something. So that is the one thing that I would say with the articulation on this guy. The neck itself, they do, from what I've read, it does seem to be a lot better than the initial run. But this bit isn't. That could be your mileage varies type thing. It might be that my copy is just not that great in that regard. But yeah, other than that, not too bad. Moving on, we come to, well, I'll tell you what, let's do the legs. The legs are a bit weird because they sort of pop out on a joint, a sliding piece here. You push them in, like you push that in and that pops it out, and then you move it back. But they don't really lock, and I find that they tend to like move to the point where the legs just don't really look all that good. They look, I don't know how to articulate it better. I mean, the irony being it's the articulation that's the problem. I haven't actually taken these bits out either, so I'll do that now while I think about it. Sorry, you've got these pieces here that fold out, form heel spurs, but I didn't take them out prior to doing that. But yeah, essentially the feet, I'll move the camera down so you can see what I'm talking about. The feet and the legs look all right, but they, I don't know if you can see what I mean. Let me move the mouth out of the way. They just look a bit bow-legged, a bit weird, because they don't lock. The sort of, they're not equidistant, the legs. It doesn't look too bad as it is at the moment, but I'm not hugely fond of the way it is. I mean, you do get some range of motion out as well, and also the ankles pivot like that, so you can get quite a wide stance on it actually for a bird. And the toes are obviously on hinges here, or pins, so they can splay. They're quite loose, so when you move the feet, they do have a tendency to get knocked and just come back together. So, but if you had it, displayed in a case, it's not going to do that, is it? So it's not too bad. The legs themselves are on ratchets, quite strong ratchets here, and then can move that much. But then you also have more movement at the knee here, again on quite strong ratchets. Then go forward like that, and then they can also bend backwards if you want them. They're a bit stiff actually, but I guess that's better than them being too loose, isn't it? So yeah, so you can get some, you could theoretically get quite a good sort of squatting pose out of it like that. Actually, I think I prefer it in that kind of pose. It looks better like that. You've got more clearance. Yeah, I think I prefer that actually. Oh, there he goes, he's falling back. But, considering it's quite a lengthy sort of figure, it does, you need this heel spur, and you need These bits here are die cast, actually, these feet, so it gives it a little bit of ballast at the front, not much. But yeah, it's actually pretty stable considering it's lengthy, and it's not very heavy because it's quite light plastic elsewhere. But it does, you know, because it's you've got these two spindly legs trying to support this very lengthy figure. It's surprisingly stable. Moving on, we come to the wings, which, again, apologies, try and get them in frame. I think they are currently in toon configuration, I believe. Now they are independently articulated as well. You know, you can move both of them. They will rotate. They will get stuck a lot, actually, is what will happen. But they can move up and down like that, so you can have them at, move the camera up, I forgot to do that after I did the legs. You know, so you can move them up so they will, you know, you can have them in different positions so they look like they're flapping, whatever. Let's try and straighten the legs as well, that might help a bit with his stability. Excuse me while I do this. There we go, that's a bit better, isn't it? Yeah, so they do flap up and down, which is kind of, you know, okay, I guess. You can get some decent range of motion out of them. You've got some detailing on the bottom here, which, again, probably not too inaccurate, but it does make it look a little bit more interesting, I guess. Again, very similar to the reformatted line. The wings themselves, you have the blue pieces that extend, and you have these tips that extend as well. And, like, you know, these pieces can move in and out, like up to that much to reveal this detailing, this piping here. And then these pieces here can move quite a long way out to the front as well if you wanted them to, like that. There is an alternate wing configuration as well, which they tell you to do in the manual when you do the combine mode, but I don't think for me it's actually as toon accurate, so I don't know if I'll do it. But basically the wings, you can rotate them 180, and then you have him in this configuration. So it's not quite as toon accurate, because in the toon he definitely had the sort of shuttle end at the back of him in all modes from memory, with these pieces like that. But I guess this actually looks okay, slightly better than maybe when he's in combined mode it looks better. I haven't done it yet, but basically you can have it in this mode and have, again, you still get all the articulation. You can have this piece out, and move that. But I actually think I do prefer the wings in the other mode, or the other configuration, so I'm probably going to keep them like that in either mode, even in combined mode. But yeah, those are the wings. That's what you can do with that. The tail, this is what it is. Also, one of my boosters fell out during transformation. Again, just looks like a bit of a QC thing, not glued in properly. So I'll probably find some glue for that. Just stick it in, because, you know, that should not be falling out, and that'll easily get lost. This one's fine. So it's just a QC thing. It's not glued in properly. One of a few QC things, as I said. But yeah, the tail, you have to flex some of these booster parts. You open this middle booster, and then you have to pull the tail through and flex the booster to pull this big bit past it. That is slightly worrying, but, you know, it didn't break, but I do worry about that if you're doing it a lot. The tail itself, you know, again, like the rest of the figure, segmented, and on hinges here you can move it around. It can move up and down. Each piece here is segmented, so you get some decent range out of it as well. And you've got the rudder that I forgot to show off. A couple of things I forgot to show off in shuttle mode, actually. There's this sort of rudder bit at the back here, which you can move left to right. Part of the tail. The tail itself, as I say, it's got a lot of motion on it. You can have it straight out like that, or you can have it bent up. You can have it completely curled up at the back if you wanted to, like that. So you do get a lot of options in terms of posability. One other thing I forgot to mention during, I don't know if I can do it now because of the way I've got these side panels. I have to move these side panels out a moment, and I'll show you. The shuttle bay doors, apologies for not showing this off earlier, but they open, and then you have, if I can even get it out now, where's my tool? God, I've never got the bloody things when I need them. Do you know, I had it a minute ago. There it is. So yeah, I should always keep this to hand, shouldn't I? Basically, you have an arm here which you can take out. Has a little claw on it as well, which I believe opens on a little hinge. Come on. Ugh. God. These things. Yes, so you can open the claw up like that. Obviously what you wouldn't have on a normal shuttle. So it's pretty true to life, but that just goes in and folds back up, and then you close those shuttle bay doors up. But yeah, apologies, I forgot to mention that when I was doing the actual shuttle bit. So a little bit of a detour there, I'm afraid, but better than not showing you at all. These pieces just plug back into the side here. There's little notches for the tabs to go in, but they do tend to get stuck on the wing, get knocked by the wing, sorry, and get knocked out of alignment. And again, that's what a lot of this figure is. I find that, like, you know, the things don't quite fit in as well as they could, so stuff pops out. Like that's going in there, as you can see, but it's almost immediately popping out despite being in the correct bits for the tabs to go in. They don't quite stay where they should. It's not the end of the world, but it is a bit annoying when, from what I can tell, the initial release, you know, the bottom ones actually stay in, but the top don't, so it does get knocked out. But yeah, the initial release didn't have these issues to this extent, from what I've seen anyway, and from comments I've read. But anyway, there you go. That's a look at Inventa. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get it transformed into sort of the ultimate combined mode, the Sky Lynx mode, I guess. So give me a bit of time, because I'm going to need to fold a lot of this this sort of lower carriage back up into the shuttle. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll come back with another cramped view at the fully combined mode. So just bear with me. Okay, and we're back with a look at the combined mode. So here is good old Commander Modesty in all of his glory. I have managed to slightly rearrange the display. This is about as far back as I can get, I'm afraid, given my current constraints. So again, apologies that you're not getting him in his full majesty. Not what he would want, is it? Old Sky Lynx, but hopefully it gives you a decent enough look at the combined mode. It is very impressive. Again, very hefty bot combined. Yeah, I think it's a really nice looking piece. It's it takes all of the sort of elements of the cartoon and does its own thing with them. I mean, it's not 100% toon accurate, you know, I will say that, but it does have, you know, for example, this piece here, it has to sort of fold down and lock things in this mode, but in the toon this should just be blue. It should just be this piece here, so that's not accurate. But by and large, it does enough right that you're not going to be complaining about it, really. I think the good outweighs the bad, that's for sure. You know, again, I've got the wings in this kind of alternate config, how they tell you to do it in the manual, where you've got them pushed forward. Now that is not, also this piece to the fore, now that is not toon accurate, but again, I believe I should be able to, I don't know if I can do it now without changing a few bits around. No, I don't know if I can do it now, it's attached, but you could have those wings rotated 180 if you wanted, so you could have a slightly more toon accurate. So see if there is any way I can do this with it attached, but no, there isn't. There isn't enough clearance. But you could have them the other way for a more toon accurate look. But they do look good like that. I mean, they do. You know, it's not a bad looking config with them in this position. Sort of gives it a little bit more weight to the front, a little more presence. I think if they were the other way around, the figure might look perhaps slightly unbalanced, which is why they tell you to do it. But I will probably give it a go anyway, just because I prefer sort of full-on toon accuracy. So for me, it would be worth investigating whether you could flip this around 180 and have a go. I would do it, but I actually found like it was a bit of a pain to get this locking mechanism in when doing it, so I don't want to take it apart now and then spend another 5 minutes fumbling around with it, if I'm honest. But you know, it does all the best bits of both modes. You've obviously seen all of that anyway, so there's no need to go through it in massive detail. But I really do like this, and obviously I'm going to display him in this mode. I think this is what you get him for, isn't it? You get him so that you can have the full-on Sky Lynx experience. And yeah, it's a great looking piece. I've no idea where I'm going to put it because it is quite big and bulky with that wingspan and that tail. So I'll probably have to find some room on top of a cabinet, maybe move some of my alt mode display around and put him up there. Around, I want to keep him obviously near the season 3 characters because obviously that's where he featured. I mean, speaking of which, I'll move him out slightly just to give you an idea of scale. I do have one season 3 character here. It's obviously the X-Transbots Magnus. I'll just move that up, and you can see, just to give you an idea, he's not as big as he would be in the show. Obviously he was like colossal in the show, but obviously scale went out the window with mass shifting and all that crap. But it's not a million miles away, you know, when you look at it. It's okay. It works as a piece next to Magnus there, who is himself quite a big bot. But yeah, in the toon, Sky Lynx would have been, you know, even bigger than that, wouldn't he? Probably. Certainly when he transformed into his shuttle sort of state, he was able to transport someone the size of Magnus plus other bots with ease. But when combined, he was a little bit smaller. So this isn't a million miles away. Yeah, I think there's not really much more to say. You know, obviously, I've pointed out a few QC issues with my version or my copy. I don't know whether those are going to be something that affects everyone. I would hope not, but they do sort of slightly take the sheen off of it. If I'm honest, you know, little bits and pieces falling out. I'm going to need to glue those back in so I don't lose them entirely. But it's not, you know, the end of the world. I will say that it's not terrible. I'll just move Magnus out of the way while we do these final thoughts. It's an impressive looking despot. I think it's going to look really good. Wherever I can find room for it. I don't feel like I've overpaid for it either. I think for what you get, when you look at the size and, you know, compare that to something like a Takara release, for example, you know, this was, I think, 270 something quid for both, plus shipping or whatever. You know, you look at 150 quid for a sort of MIDI bot with Takara now, don't you? I mean, you know, you were nearly 200 quid, or in some case, I think for Starscream you were over 200 quid, and for Thundercracker and Skywarp it was nearly 200 quid for those. So they're a lot smaller and a lot more sort of flimsy and lightweight compared to this. There's actually, you know, a fair bit of die cast and a fair bit of engineering and articulation that's gone into this. So I don't feel like it's you know, it's a rip-off or anything. It is quite expensive, but you do get a fair bit for your money with the 2 bots and the combined mode. So yeah, I think this is probably going to be the last review I do for a while now. It's going to be a bit of a lean time. I was hoping Addendum was going to come this month, but I contacted X-Transbots, and then now they basically told me 2023. I asked them if they could narrow it down, and they said, oh, perhaps by summer, which is disappointing considering it was supposed to be imminent in December and I paid for it, and now I'm going to have to wait potentially a year for it to arrive. So I wish I hadn't paid for it now. But that was going to be my next one, I was hoping, but you know, that's now looking like it's going to be some way off. I'm not going in on the Masterpiece Trailbreaker. I've kind of decided I don't want to. I may wait for the KO and get that potentially. Because I, you know, just want to check the mold out, but I'm not paying Takara prices for what doesn't look to be as good as Fans Toys Outrider in some respects. I think Parkour is one I've got on order, Fans Toys Parkour, so I'm going to look at that, but again, that's months off. So could be a little while before I do anything else, if I'm honest. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at Inventa Magna. And I'll try and find some stuff to fill up the channel in the meantime. A few more retrospective reviews, maybe, that kind of thing. But it only remains for me to say, until next time, take care, everyone. Happy New Year, and may it bring you all the Transformers that you deserve. Just a quick little bit tagged on at the end for those of you who did stick around. Apologies that I didn't actually fade it in earlier, but this is how it looks with the alternate wing configuration, just in case you're interested. This is probably how I'm going to display it. I do prefer it looking more toon accurate like that. So yeah, definitely my preferred display option. But there you go. Actually, goodbye for real this time. And I will see you next time.